Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Time for Ohio State picks. Ohio State at Wisconsin, Saturday at 3:30 Eastern, Bill Landis. I went back and rewatched the Oregon at Wisconsin game from last year as a comparison for this. Because a year ago, in week 12, Oregon was 10-0 and the number one team in the country. Wisconsin was 5-4. This is week 8. Ohio State is 6-0, the number one team in the country. Wisconsin is 2-4. That was a primetime game at 7:30. This is a 3:30 start. I'm going to ask you how much you think that might matter. That game, even though Oregon was number one and Wisconsin was pretty mid, that line was only 13.5, which kind of surprised me looking back on that. This line is 25.5 that Ohio State is favored by. And Wisconsin gave Oregon a game the whole night. And we can talk about it a little bit, but I thought it's like, wow, Wisconsin's hosting the undefeated number one team in the country. What a spot for the Badgers. Oh, they did that last year and maybe should have won. First off, the fact that this is an afternoon game and not prime time in Camp Randall, do you think that makes it a slightly better spot for Ohio State than it was for Oregon a year ago, or does it not matter?
No, I think it matters. I also think at that time last year, like the fan base in general was not as out on the Luke Fickle experience as they are right now. So like, I'm not anticipating much of an environmental edge for Wisconsin on Saturday. And I think that time last year, they probably still had a little bit of one.
Okay. I think that is true. One of the other things last year was Oregon, I think, was playing its 6th straight game. And I think it had a second bye super late. So Oregon was in like a kind of a tough stretch there. This is the end of a 4-game stretch for Ohio State, playing 4 straight weeks, 3 of the 4 on the road and back-to-back road games. Like that part of it for Ohio State. Not that playing 4 in a row is tough, but 3 of 4 on the road. Ryan Day even mentioned it this week that's, and back-to-back road games. Is that anything as you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I did consider that a little bit because one of those trips is a West Coast trip. One of those trips is to play like a pretty good Illinois team. I think Ohio State's like a little banged up, is eager to get the break that it's going to get next week. So, yes, I do think that could be a minor factor here. I guess it seems like Ohio State is going to get some guys back maybe for this game that didn't play last week. Lorenzo Styles Jr., Edric Houston, Ryan Day said he's expecting them to play. Oregon last year in that game did not have Tej Johnson or Jordan Birch. So, Ohio State is not dealing with anything of that magnitude as it goes into this game.
So I do think in rewatching that game, this will come down to Ohio State's DAF. And I always talk about I want to invent a stat. I want it to be my legacy. Here lies Doug. He invented a stat. So I've invented DAF this week for college football teams. Bill, do you want to figure out what DAF stands for?
Yes. I don't know what it is because I don't know if the D stands for Doug or Duck.
Oh, man. It should stand for Doug. In some circles, some people might want to call this the FAF factor, but I'm not calling it the FAF factor. I'm calling it the DAF. I already gave away the F. It's DAF is the dork around factor. Okay. How much is a team willing to dork around in a situation where they probably shouldn't, right? So Oregon dorked around last year. Like, you watched them against that Wisconsin team, and Oregon went field goal, interception in the red zone, field goal, punt on the first drive of the second half. Then they scored a touchdown, punt, and then field goal to win it. So they were up 6-0. Field goal, interception in the red zone, field goal. And you just watched the game and they were doing whatever they wanted. And this is what I'm interested about with Ohio State. Do you think Ohio State potentially, what do you think their DAF is? Because it got to the point where Oregon would just have drives where they would run on first down and then get 3 yards. And then on second down, you kind of threw a pass and maybe it was slightly off target and the guy maybe could have caught it, but he didn't. And now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 7. It's like, what happened? Or they went run. And it was like gain of 2, gain of 1. Now it's 3rd and 7. And what's happening? And now, Dylan Gabriel last year, like point guard kind of quarterback, run the offense. A lot of times he could complete 3rd down throws. Julian Sayin, point guard kind of guy, run the offense. But you're just off a little bit. Something weird happens. And all of a sudden, like the drive is over and you kind of don't understand why it is. It's not like the defense stopped you. And we will talk about Wisconsin's defense. But yet you're done or you're held to a field goal, especially your DAF in the red zone can really come up and bite you. Do you think Ohio State is capable of going on the road for the 2nd straight week and just with the run game situation, with maybe slightly banged up in the backfield, just dorking around? Could that happen?
I think the offense is capable of it. Yeah. I know Ryan Day quibbled with the idea of last week being a slow start, and he's right. They scored on their first 2 possessions. But does Ohio like this? So this is what happened last year with Oregon and Wisconsin. Oregon outgained Wisconsin 137 to -8 on the first 3 possessions. Took the ball to the Wisconsin 17, the Wisconsin 9, and the Wisconsin 24, and it was only 6-0.
Yep.
Like, yeah, Ohio State has that in them.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Because like that's the formula. And I think when you look at Wisconsin's defense, they have a couple guys. They're okay. They're certainly better defensively than they are offensively. But I don't think – do you think this is a Wisconsin defense that's going to come out and shut down Ohio State's offense?
No.
I don't think so either. I think they could make a play here or there. And then if you are doing things to help them, you drop a pass, you miss a block on the edge on a run that should have gone for 12 and you miss 1 block and now it goes for 2, like that kind of thing. And I do just think, this is, I don't think we're not having a conversation really about, is Ohio State in danger of losing? They're not. But could it be a game that is closer than it should be? I mean, Oregon was in danger of losing, but that was a better Wisconsin team and it was at night. Right. So I think and Tez Johnson, they're missing their best offensive player and arguably their best defensive player in Jordan Birch. Ohio State's not in that spot. But I think it is an interesting spot for Ohio State. They're in control of it. I'm not sure Wisconsin, either side of the ball, has anything to really challenge Ohio State, but it's just like schedule, road game, situation. If Ohio State doesn't dork around at all and just handles business, I think we have to be impressed because I think to be on dork around alert makes sense. Mm-hmm. So now we're setting up like, hey, man, Ohio State came out and scored touchdowns on 4 of its first 6 drives and was up 28-0 at the half. Mm-hmm. Let's not brush that off. Because I think you could see how it could go. I think you can see how it could be 6-0 in the middle of the second quarter.
Sure, but aren't we on? We're on a dork around alert from now until the Michigan game, aren't we? To the way the schedule. I mean, the Penn State's a very. We don't talk about it, but it's a very interesting matchup.
Yeah,
it's like team down on its luck without a hope in the world, but still good players. Yeah, we can talk about that next week. But we remove that game. Like, there's a lot of dork around opportunities for Ohio State. I think the second half of the season, this being one of them. Yeah, I think even the Washington game, like Washington's a better team, much tougher place to play. That game had far more stakes to it than this one did, but just the way that game transpired, like Ohio State didn't put its foot on Wisconsin's neck early, right? But Washington's neck early. If they don't here, a lot would have to go wrong in this game, I think, for Ohio State to be in jeopardy of losing it. But there's an opportunity for a slow start. Yeah. And I think Ryan Day was really harping on not starting slow last week. And I don't think they did. I don't think they started slow. The defense started great. The offense scored twice on their first 2 possessions. But it's can you ratchet that up again for a game like this against a team that stinks? Maybe not. I think it could. I think it's more challenging. To your point to say if they don't, if they do come out guns ablaze and score touchdowns on their first 3 possessions or something like that, which we've seen Ohio State do before, I would be pretty impressed by that, even though Wisconsin is not a very good team.
Yeah, so Wisconsin's in major trouble. They're 2-4. They're 0-3 in the Big Ten. They're on a 4-game losing streak. And this is one of those, like, to me, I think yes, it's a DAA for UCLA and Purdue and Rutgers also. But just maybe it's probably wrong. But like in my head, it's like, well, going to Camp Randall is probably a little tougher than all. Wisconsin's 0-3. Wisconsin might not win a Big Ten game. I don't know. And Wisconsin
lost at home to Maryland.
And they're 0-2 in the Big Ten at home. They lost 27-10 to Maryland. They got shut out at home by Iowa last week, 37-0. So it's like, hey, in Camp Randall, you never know. It's like, what are you talking? It's 64-10 in Big Ten games in Camp Randall against them this year. They could and Iowa has a good defense, but if you think Iowa has a good defense, wait until you see Ohio State. So I don't know how Wisconsin's going to score. And then if Iowa can score 37, why are we talking about dorking around with Ohio State? Right. So that's possible, right? That even the idea of trying to compare what happened with Oregon last year as the number 1 team in the country in Camp Randall, this Wisconsin team might be so much further below that Wisconsin team that the comparison is moot.
I think it's mostly moot, yes. And also the idea of Ohio State dorking around is almost entirely an Ohio State versus itself conversation. I don't think it's anything that Wisconsin can do to Ohio State. So, but I also I think there's enough what's up with the run game stuff? You guys won, but you didn't look great. Like the kind of conversations that I think tend to bring out the best in Ohio State. So I think it's maybe a little more likely we see that. There is a bit of an X factor in this game, though. It's supposed to rain.
Okay, because you're bringing up this is the only thing I ever learned in school. It's my favorite thing I think I ever learned in school, right? All the conflicts in literature, right? Man versus man. Man versus man, there's no conflict here. Ohio State's players versus Wisconsin players, that's not what this novel is about, right?
Correct.
Man versus God. Now, man versus God, that's just the football gods. So this is like passes hitting guys in helmets, weird. Like even last year, there was like a sequence where Wisconsin converted a 3rd down late in the game when it was still tied, and they called a chop block on Wisconsin that wasn't actually a chop block. It was a bad call, and it wiped out a 3rd down conversion. And that's like the football god. So there's some weird stuff that can happen to you sometimes. So I think you always are on alert for man versus God, right?
Yes.
Now you're bringing in man versus nature. Because I was going to say man versus nature, we're out. Right? Camp Randall, who cares? Jump around, it doesn't matter. But you're bringing in rain. So that's a little something maybe. Could this story be about man versus nature?
Potentially. You always worry about wind more than you do rain. It doesn't look like it's going to be especially windy in Camp Randall on Saturday. But I don't know the answer to this question. Do you think Julian Sayin has ever had to throw a wet football in a game?
Wow. That's a Tuesday question, bro. Man, that's a Tuesday question.
Well, I didn't know it was supposed to rain until last night.
That's the kind of thing we just need to be asking that question in August when you talk to Julian Sayin. It's like, just in case it rains at any point in time this year, have you ever thrown a wet football? Do you think Julian Sayin has seen rain?
I don't know. He's from Southern California, man. It doesn't rain in San Diego. Yeah.
This is one of those things. It's like, all those guys, San Diego, right? That's like Truman Show stuff. That is not a real place.
Right. Yeah.
So all those recruiting stories of guys from the South coming to the Midwest and the North, and they see snow for the first time. Julian Sayin's seeing rain. Julian Sayin's like, why? I didn't know stuff.
I'm sure he's seen rain. I just don't know if he's ever played in rain before.
Like Julian Sayin has watched the scene in Shawshank Redemption when Tim Robbins comes up out of the pipes and it's raining, right? And he's looking up at the sky. And Julian Sayin is like, man, what a weird thing they did in the movie. They made water fall out of the sky. Why would they do that? That's fake. It's like, well, Julian, rain is real. So that could be a little bit of a thing. But really, this is man versus himself. This is the Buckeyes versus themselves. And that is, it's just hard. And I do think, and we kind of noted this before the season, this spot between the two buys 3 of the 4 on the road, and like possibly like all kind of competitive teams. And then it turned out not to be exactly that, but Washington's pretty good. Minnesota's okay. Illinois, I think, is pretty good, and Wisconsin's not very good.
No.
So we're not shocked by that, but it was just, I really thought this could be a trip up area. These 4, I really thought, I picked one. I think a lot of people maybe picked them to lose one of these. I think maybe you picked Washington, I picked Illinois preseason. It's like, I just don't think the defending national champs are going to go 12-0, but I think they'll beat Penn State at home. I think if you think they'll end the Michigan losing streak, then like, what is it? It's like, well, there's this actually kind of like a tougher than you think 4-game stretch. And now they're at the end of it. And so again, I think this is one of those, the reason that this is not false. We're not setting this up to be like, man, it's a 25.5 point game. Hey, Bill, let's make sure we try to fake it and like act like it's going to be. But I think we just want to make sure that if, they controlled DeMond Williams Jr. in Washington and held them to 6. Minnesota had one drive, had more yards on its first drive than it did the rest of the game, and they dominated that. They let it rip offensively. 42-3, not a game. And then they go and handle, they're never in danger at Illinois. And again, I think Illinois is pretty good. And so now if they go handle their business at Wisconsin, I just think we have to be impressed by this 4-game stretch in a world where Paul Feinbaum and Peter Burns and a lot of national people who just don't see anything and think the whole Big Ten sucks would be like, well, of course they won those 4 games. But it's like, no, I think there was something here if they would have allowed it to be. And if they finish off Wisconsin, they didn't allow anything to trip them up.
Yeah, I would consider like an Ohio State to be like very much as like an about its business kind of team, right? Like
Yes.
I don't think they've shown much in the way of like a lack of focus or attention to detail. Like here and there, sure, like the Ohio game in the red zone, like that kind of stuff. It has happened. They're not perfect, but especially if you take like the games against Power 4 competition, like. Have they been runaway blowouts, 52-0 kind of games? No, but they've all been controlled, I think, for more or less by Ohio State. And talent wise, this should be the one that's most easy to control. There's some outside stuff that could contribute to that maybe makes it less so. But yeah, if this is another week where Ohio State just goes in, does what it has to do, handles its stuff, doesn't find itself in any funky positions. I think it's impressive. Really, almost like no matter, certainly the margin matters, but if it's like whatever, if they win by 3 scores and they win by 6 scores, I don't know that I care necessarily, as long as Ohio State feels like it is controlling the game from start to finish.
Yeah, it's the never in danger threshold. Like, yeah, you can't. It's like, oh, it was only 31-10. It's like the other team never had the ball when they were down less than 2 scores. Like that's never in danger. Like I don't, like you said. You said it exactly right. So I think we're to set up the idea of if it goes as you expect, let's make sure we give Ohio State credit for that. Just to double back on that Oregon-Wisconsin game from last year, Dylan Gabriel in that game was 22 of 31 for 218, no touchdowns, one weird pick in the red zone where he just threw behind kind of an open guy.
It was in the end zone, wasn't it?
Well, it was like at the 5-yard line. It's like he threw like a little crosser. They were at the 9 and he threw like a little crosser to the 5 and it was a little bit behind the guy. And so then it got tipped up in the air. And then I think the Wisconsin guy caught it in the end zone, but it wasn't a throw into the end zone. So just like a little bit of looseness from Dylan Gabriel, but like the quarterback play for Wisconsin last year was terrible. 12 of 28 for 96 yards. Overall, Wisconsin was outgained 354 to 226. Neither team ran the ball last year. Oregon 3.4 yards per carry, Wisconsin 3.8 yards per carry, and Wisconsin on its first 2 drives where I think it went 3 and out those first 3 drives, but they had 3 possible turnovers on its first 2 drives. There's a fumble that they recovered. There were tip balls that were up in the air that nobody caught, and Oregon didn't get any of them. So this is one of the things, like I think if you're trying to watch this game early, I would be on alert for Wisconsin trying to give the ball to Ohio State and Ohio State not taking it, because Ohio State is a defense that has not forced a ton of turnovers this year. Like that's kind of not what they are about. And so then you get in a punting game. That's another thing here. Like this is, again, Ryan Day was asked about punting this week. I actually don't know anything about the Wisconsin punter. I forgot to look that up. Did you look up anything on the Wisconsin punter?
I didn't. Sorry.
Okay.
I can if you want me to. Yeah.
But it's just one of those things of like, if you get in, like if you have a chance for a turnover, you don't get it, and you get in like a weird punting exchange, and Ohio State's punting hasn't been great, and all of a sudden you're kind of like in a field position thing, and it's just 6-0 when it feels like it should be 21-0. Like that, I think, is the main thing to be on alert for.
Well, Oregon in that game had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drives before they nailed the game out, because that drive also finished in Wisconsin territory. They had 6 drives finish inside the Wisconsin 25-yard line and had 1 touchdown to show for it.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Wisconsin, again, like Wisconsin couldn't throw the ball. Wisconsin's touchdown, they hit 1 deep shot that the receiver almost looked surprised that the ball hit him in the hands. He was like, what? Oh my God, that's a 40-yard completion inside the 10. And then they scored a touchdown. So it's like that kind of thing. And then the other thing is, and I do think Tommy Walker was the back for Wisconsin last year. He popped their average run wasn't great, but he popped a couple on drives that mattered for Wisconsin. I do think with Dylan Jones and Darian Dupree and Cade Yakimelli maybe, but like Wisconsin has some guys at running back who maybe could pop something here or there. But I actually would rather start on the other side, because we're talking about the dork around factor. That's all about the Ohio State offense. The Wisconsin defense, Ricardo Hallman at corner, right? Good player. They had this guy, Mason Reiger, who is he's a Louisville transfer. Yeah. He has 19 pressures, which is like 11th in the Big Ten. Caden Curry, for instance, has 23 pressures. So he's a guy who can get after the passer a little bit. Ohio State fans will remember Tackett Curtis, who was like the big Jim Knowles trying to go to Louisiana to recruit Tackett Curtis. Ohio State did not win that battle for the linebacker spot. He didn't transfer. He picked USC, and then he transferred to Wisconsin. So he's kind of like one of their guys in the middle of the defense. It's still Mike Tressel calling the defense for Wisconsin, right? So like Mike Tressel is Jim Tressel's nephew. Everybody knows that. Was at Michigan State for a long time. Was at Cincinnati with Luke Fickle. Like when Luke Fickle kind of lost Marcus Freeman as his defensive coordinator, Mike Tressel kind of stepped in that role. So as much like everything with Wisconsin offensively is in flux, but they still have like a little bit, I think, of a defensive identity. Luke Fickle is a defensive coach. They know what they want to do, but they also gave up 37 to Iowa last week. So I don't know.
Yeah. Iowa and Michigan ran it okay on them. Alabama threw it on them. Ricardo Hallman's actually not playing that well this year. Now that I'm looking at it.
He's not a great grade. Veteran corner. He's been like second team All-Big stuff before, right?
Darrell Peterson's a good edge. He's from Ohio. There's some individual defensive pieces. A lot of the guys you should be playing on Wisconsin's defensive line in this game played for Illinois last week. So yes. that's an issue for Wisconsin. Yeah.
Wisconsin lost 3 defensive starters in the portal to Illinois in the offseason.
Yeah. So I don't think like the interior of Wisconsin's defensive line is not great, but their outside linebackers / edges are probably their strength. I don't know. Like it's certainly better than their offense. It's like a top 50-ish kind of defense.
Yes.
It's not. It's probably of these 4 teams that Ohio State has played, it's probably still the 4th best defense in this 4-game stretch. But there are individual guys, I guess, who could make some plays to muck some things up.
Wisconsin allows 31% third down conversions. That's 24th in the country. So that's okay. They're decent on third down. But what do you want to see? What do we need to see from the Ohio State offense in a situation like this? I think we're defining a Wisconsin defense that is okay, but also has the potential to be okay with maybe flashes of making a play here or there, but also Alabama, Michigan, and Iowa didn't really have any trouble with them. So what do you expect to see? What should fans want to see from the Ohio State offense?
I think Wisconsin is going to do the same thing that most other teams do, which is make Ohio State kind of work it down the field and kind of keep that umbrella over the top. I want to see the run game be more. I think the number one thing is like finish drives, right? Finish drives with touchdowns. Don't finish drives with field goals, or else like you find yourself in a game like last year that Oregon did. Run game efficiency. Ryan Day's talked about. Now that they have 6 games worth of data, like figuring out what guys do best, what they don't do well, asking them to do the things they do well more often. I think finding the run concepts that work best for the collective group. So I'm interested to see what that looks like in this game. Maybe that's more of like another side of the bye week conversation than it is change for this particular game. I'd like to see Julian saying kind of take the shots if and when they're there. I don't know that he always did that last week. I don't know that he's always done a great job of that on the season. He's been incredibly efficient, but I think he has been a little conservative. This is like a game where you want to walk that line, right? Because you don't want to tip pass to make the game more interesting than it needs to be, or kind of a force throw to make the game more interesting than it needs to be. So I don't think Ohio State will have much problem moving the ball here. I'm just kind of more curious how they choose to do it. But again, the biggest thing is just, don't be kicking field goals when you get the ball down in there, because that's how you leave Camp Randall, even with a win, like not feeling great about yourself.
I will say that when to take the deep shots is part of the dork around factor a little bit, because again, you watch the Oregon game last year and it'll be like, oh, here they're trying a shot on first down. It's like, oh, there's just overthrown. Now it's 2nd and 10. And here comes a run for 3 yards. And now it's 3rd and 7. And it's not really anything the defense did. So the balance, it really is I just think it's super. We talk about it constantly because we think it's interesting to watch the art of this, the continued art of this, you have great players. You have guys who, when you put the ball in their hands, are dangerous. And you have the run game that you still are trying to get it to be more consistent and more efficient, right? And that you have 2 guys on the outside that if you get Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith the ball, they can go to the end zone in any single play. So like, how do you balance all that to maximize it? And I do think every Ohio State fan should watch this offense with like the connection in mind, with the art in mind, not just what can be, what is possible, but like how you put the brush strokes together on the canvas. Because the palette, man, you got all the colors on the palette that you want. Right. But the art, as Brian Hartline continues to like find the art of play calling, and I think they do get caught in between a little bit of like, I think sometimes when they're running it too much, it's like they're almost like they're trying to establish something to take a shot off what they've established. And then it's like, oh, well, you didn't really establish it. So then you didn't. And then when you called the shot, Julian saying didn't take it, even though it maybe was there. And so I do think, and anybody who watches or listens to us or reads anything, this is what it's all about with the Ohio State offense right now. Run game efficiency, right? Which is everybody blocking their man, and then are you breaking tackles, right?
Yep.
The art of the play calling, connecting things, setting things up. Is there cohesion does it feel like a plan? And then when they call the shots, are they taking them? So like those are the 3 things. And you noted this, what did you say about tight end blocking in your rewatch and looking at the game from last week?
It was the worst game I've seen in a while.
So I did ask Will Kazmarek about that on Wednesday night, and they like kind of know it, and they realize like it is. I think it's like an understanding of like, it's almost like they like it in the tight end room, but it's kind of not weird, but it's like, man, it's not always that your run game relies on the tight end so much, that they are so primary in the run game when they're putting 2 and 3 on the field on a regular basis, especially in the red zone. And then it's like, hey, because normally when we talk about the Ohio State run game, it's like, oh man, the offensive line, are they blocking well enough? Like that is not, as you ran through the other day on our Tuesday night show, that is not the primary conversation here. So like they know it wasn't a good game. Like they see the same thing that you saw.
Good.
Right. So, and he said, I said, like, how does Keenan Bailey respond to that? And he's like, Keenan Bailey, like, feels it more than anybody. Like, I think Keenan Bailey is probably, as the tight ends coach, is like mad and on edge and is like, we're not doing our job and we're relied upon so much here. So he didn't brush it off, right? And then it's like, I'm trying to ask the questions because again, it's the art of the question asking. You can't ask you can't ask 5 straight. Why aren't you good at this questions? Because the guy's going to shut down. So then like I said, like, what's it like when you guys all make your blocks, when you're in the tight end room and you are watching film and it's like we had 13 personnel and then like here's Will making his block, here's Max making his block, and here's Jelani making his block. And he was like, oh my God, it's better than a touchdown. Like it's the greatest feeling in the world. When you're in that room, you know that you are called upon and you all did your job. So I'm curious, like I think it's a thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like this is not like a Bill Landis is making stuff up. Oh man, give Landis a telestrator and he just is gonna find somebody to circle. The tight ends are not happy, and the tight end coach is not happy with how they blocked that last week. So let's see what that means here. And maybe it means some guys planting dudes. I don't know. Are you you'll be watching it.
Yeah, I'm more curious if it means less guys playing, like fewer guys playing. Like I think again, like so they're in a bit of a pickle, I think, because I do think that 12 personnel is their best personnel grouping with Max Clare and Will Kacmarek. But when they're using them both as like blockers, it's not great. So I think there's some different things, even like we talked about it, I think a couple times after the Illinois game, the run right after Jeremiah Smith got hurt. A counter run that went for 8 yards. On that play, Kacmarek and Clare are like in tight to the formation, but neither one of them blocks. They use them in an RPO, like attached to the run. Pull them out of the box, pull defenders out of the box, and it's just like a much cleaner run look. So I think there are definitely ways for Ohio State to run the ball more effectively out of 12 personnel than it has been. And I think like the first step is using your 12 personnel more like 11 personnel. So I'm curious to see if they do more of that. I just don't think like the 13-14 stuff has looked very good.
Okay.
I understand the idea behind it, but I just don't think it's been effective enough for them to do it as much as they have. Now, if those guys start blocking better, then sure. But I don't know that they blocked well enough, and they definitely didn't block well enough in the Illinois game for them to be relying as much on the tight ends as they were. So Ryan Day saying something to the effect of like, we have a better idea of what guys can do and can't do, and we need to stop forcing what they can't do. That to me is that's like a tight end conversation. And maybe I'm reading that wrong, but that like to me, that the first position I thought of was the tight end position. So again, I don't know if we'll see drastically different things with that position group in this game because they do have an off week coming up after it. But I think they need to sort of go back to the drawing board a little bit on how they want to utilize that position. They thought it was their deepest position group coming into the year. I don't think it's played out that way.
Okay.
So I think they could be helped by relying upon it less and kind of just rolling with Kacmarek and Clare. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's what they're actually going to do.
And which means it might be like the tight end group's last chance to show that we can play this way. And it's like we're gonna take one more shot at doing basically what we've been doing, which is 12 a lot and 13 a decent amount in the red zone. And then if it doesn't work here, we're revamping some stuff in the bye week. So I think a little bit of a do or die, but they feel that. I think they're not oblivious to that. So which is good.
It felt like a lot of the fan base conversation too, like kind of pivoted from the running backs to the tight ends after that Illinois game, which I don't think actually is off base. Because like I think I wrote this, and I think we've said it, and I asked Ryan Day about it. Like the main thing with Ohio State's rushing attack is like it gets what it's blocked for and nothing else. Right. So when it's blocked for a 2-yard loss, like it was too often against Illinois, it's going to be a 2-yard loss. And I think a lot of that stuff was on the tight ends.
Yeah, and it doesn't it doesn't absolve the running backs because it's not like, well, all of a sudden it's like the running back's not breaking tackles except for Bo Jackson, and if Bo Jackson's not healthy, then they really. I mean, it's a Peoples and Donaldson conversation. But then on top of that. Right. As we said, sometimes if the tight ends miss a block, but Ezekiel Elliott's in the backfield, like he's going to get 4 anyway.
Right.
So, okay. Anything else? Ohio State offense, Wisconsin defense that you want to mention here?
Remain curious about the usage of some of the younger receivers. We've seen them get on the field, but not yet targeted. Ryan Day was asked about Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham on Wednesday night, and he said like they're knocking on the door.
What does that actually mean? What does that
I don't know. Not to unseat Jeremiah Smith or Cornell Tate, obviously, but maybe to get a touch here or there. We'll see. I don't know.
because a lot of time when they end up talking about knocking on the door, then they sort of in the next breath just make it sound like, well, when we get into garbage time, they might get a few more snaps. Like, well, that's not really like that's great, but it's also like not what we really mean. It's like on the second drive of the game, could Quincy Porter or Mylan Graham be in the slot instead of Brandon Ennis? Like that's what everybody means, and that's just a completely different conversation, which we now have had a million times both directions. We've had it from the Brandon Ennis conversation. Now we're having it from the who it could be Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter instead conversation. And still, it doesn't feel like we've met in the middle on that, where it hasn't been enough of them saying like, yeah, I don't know, Brandon Ennis, and enough like, oh yeah, to get to the point where it comes together and it's like that squishy ball that like goes like this. You get it. All right, let's go to the other side of the ball. Wisconsin, I think, is going to play without a quarterback this week. It feels like.
I was going to ask you, do you know who their quarterback is? Because I have not been able to figure out who's playing quarterback for Wisconsin.
So just so people know, so again, like what we used to do, we made a talk about Wisconsin quarterback situation a ton. They got 2 transfers in the offseason. Billy Edwards Jr. was a starter at Maryland last year. Danny O'Neill, as a true freshman, was a starter at San Diego State last year. They got them both. And there was a time when people thought Billy Edwards Jr. was going to Michigan instead of Mikey Keene to be like the veteran in front of Bryce Underwood. And then it was like, no, he's going to Wisconsin. It was like, oh, they're serious about this. So it's actually not true that they got 2 starting quarterbacks in the transfer portal this offseason. They got 3, which I did not realize, because Hunter Simmons has started the last 2 games for Wisconsin. He started 3 games at quarterback for Southern Illinois last year before he got hurt. So he was like kind of Southern Illinois starter, and he has been the starter now. 2 weeks ago, what was it? 2 weeks ago, I guess. Is that right? They said it's always like on the Wisconsin beat. You know, you always appreciate the beat reporters because they understand like the ins and outs and like this is how it works. And when something's different than the norm, your antenna go up, right? So Wisconsin always has the starting quarterback talk during the week. And a couple weeks ago, it was either for the Michigan game or the Iowa game, Danny O'Neill talked and said he was taking the first team reps, and then Hunter Simmons started the game. And it was like, oh, that's interesting. Because Billy Edwards got hurt in week 1, tried to play in week 4 against Maryland, came out in the second series, and has not been seen since. Billy Edwards is still hurt. Nobody is anticipating this is Billy Edwards. So he's not, no one is thinking he's playing against Ohio State. So Danny O'Neill or Hunter Simmons started the last 2 weeks against Michigan and Iowa. This week, no Wisconsin quarterback talked. So that was well, we don't want to make a guy talk and not start him. We don't want to give away who it is by who's talking, but also it's not the first time that we've seen Luke Fickle get a little wacky with the media stuff for playing Ohio State.
Yes.
So when he was a head coach at Cincinnati a couple of years ago, he didn't let anybody talk the week Ohio State played Cincinnati. And then Cincinnati came in and turtled and lost by 50 in Ohio Stadium. And it was like, that was like probably the bottom. That was probably the worst game. That was probably Luke Fickle's worst game at Cincinnati, because he was unbelievably successful at Cincinnati. But in going back to play at his alma mater, at the place where he had been the interim head coach, he changed what they normally do. And I think it freaked out the whole team, and they played terrible in Ohio Stadium. And then like 3 years later, they were in the playoff. So that was not indicative of Luke at Cincinnati. And I don't think this is born out of just absolute chaos at the quarterback position, which unfortunately for Luke Fickle has been the case since he got there. Year 1, Tanner Mordecai transfers from SMU. He's the starter, gets hurt. Braden Locke plays. Braden Locke's not very good. Last year, Tyler Van Dyke, transfer from Miami. He's the starter. He gets hurt. Braden Locke plays. Braden Locke's not very good. This year, they bring in 3 transfers. Billy Edwards gets hurt in the first game. If they just had Billy Edwards this whole time, they might be 3. They might have the same record. They wouldn't have scored 0 against Iowa if Billy Edwards Jr. was playing, right? Billy Edwards Jr. was a pretty functional Big Ten quarterback last year. Yeah. And now they are down to trying to figure out, is it their second string guy? Is it their third string guy? Like Hunter Simmons has been like maybe a little bit okay the last couple weeks, like certainly not
QBR good. Like 0.8 last week.
Can I try to be nice?
I saw somebody say Carter or Hunter Simmons, QBR was 0.8. If you drop back and threw the ball into the dirt 20 times, it would be 0.0, which is not that far off.
So mean. They're trying. He was 18 of 29 for 177 yards against Michigan. He was 8 of 21 for 82 yards against Iowa last week. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So for the year,
his best Beacon Hill impression against Iowa.
for the year, he's 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Danny O'Neal's 5 touchdowns, 5 picks. Overall, 6 touchdowns, 8 picks for Wisconsin. 6 touchdown passes is like near the bottom of the country, and 8 interceptions is like the 6th most in the country. Like the passing game is non-existent. They actually have a couple okay receivers in Vinny Anthony and Tresh Kahuna. They just can't get him the ball.
Yeah.
So
Jaden Ballard's got 7 catches this year.
Jaden Ballard, former Buckeye, is their deep threat. So, so the quarterback situation is a mess. And like, I actually do feel bad for Luke Fickle about this. 3 straight transfers, starting quarterbacks from SMU, Miami, and Maryland. 3 straight transfers, 3 straight injuries early in the year. Completely blew up your season. And then this year, even they tried, it's like, well, we want to make sure our backup quarterback's good enough. And then like that still hasn't worked. I feel bad, but their quarterback situation's the worst in the Big Ten.
Was there any in your reading some of the reports out of Wisconsin to suggest that not making a starting quarterback talk this week is an indication that the freshman might start? Carter Smith?
So Carter Smith is the guy he's from Florida. He was committed to Michigan for a long time. And then when Bryce Underwood flipped from LSU to Michigan, Carter Smith flipped from Michigan to Wisconsin. And so I think I think the fan base is like, what are we doing? Why not? And the things that I saw, it just seems like probably not ready yet.
I mean, I wouldn't throw him out there against Arvell Reese and Matt Patricia's defense for his first start.
So like that just kind of, because like that was like a big deal. I think Michigan was actually, they were pretty happy with Carter Smith, but it's like, oh my God, it's Bryce Underwood.
It's like a 4-star top 300 quarterback from Florida. Yeah.
But that's a pretty big get for them. So, but I think the passing game, do you expect the passing game to be non-functional? And actually this might be a chance for Ohio State to get after the quarterback even a little bit more.
Yeah. I think, I actually think there's going to be some opportunities for turnovers. You're right. Ohio State does not get a lot of them. They got 3 last week. This feels like maybe another chance where they could get their hands on the football a little bit, whether that's strip sacks or the quarterback throwing them the ball. Because I don't know. I saw some Wisconsin fans too saying like maybe like are Billy Edwards and Danny O'Neal both like redshirting, like just not burning this year of eligibility. Because what's the point? So I'm assuming it's going to be Hunter Simmons still.
Wow.
And I wouldn't, not against this defense. I don't think he's going to suddenly morph into somebody who's pretty good.
And then trying to run the ball, again, I think they have a couple backs. They really were excited about Dylan Jones in the offseason. He didn't do much early, but 16 carries for 69 against Iowa, 17 for 63 against Michigan. Again, Darian Dupree was our number 2 back last year. He's there this year. Like, I don't think it's going to be consistent, but I think those 2 guys, when they have the ball in their hands, I think have a little bit of ability. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Dylan Jones pop a little something. And I will say on the offensive line for Wisconsin, again, this is like probably more than Ohio State fans care about, but Kevin Haywood was a big time recruit for them. Was 5-star second-year player. True freshman? True freshman or second-year guy?
True. He was going to be a second-year guy, I think.
Okay. Was going to be the left tackle for sure. And then tore his ACL in camp. And that was a devastating injury for Wisconsin. This is a huge best top guy in their recruiting class 2 years ago. So Riley Mahlman, who's been their starting right tackle for 2 years, has now moved to the left side. It feels like maybe he's not playing quite as well at left tackle as he played in the past at right tackle. Joe Bruner, still a veteran guard for them. Jake Renfro, their starting center, missed a bunch of games early in the year, missed like 3 games, but he was back last week against Iowa. So I do think like Joe Bruner, Jake Renfro, Riley Mahlman, like that offensive line identity, like they have some decent players on the offensive line. So I think that's the Wisconsin run game, decent guys in the backfield, some decent guys in the offensive line. I think it is a little something to like, hey, let's see what the Ohio State run defense looks like. I'm not expecting Wisconsin to run all over them, but like they're not incompetent running the ball, I don't think.
No, it's like to the extent that they do something well, that's it. It's an opportunity, I think, for Ohio State to like pack the box a little bit,
Okay.
and see what that run defense looks like against a team that I think is going to want to run it and shorten the game as much as possible. Like because I think that's probably. Oh, I mean, Illinois did some of that, but there's not much. There's not really anything to question about Ohio State's defense, but you're just wondering about like different styles of offense. Um, this will be, I think, a kind of a different look for Ohio State. So I'm curious to see not so much how they handle it because I think they'll handle it fine, but like how they choose to like deploy their personnel. Because we saw, like I said, Lorenzo Styles is supposed to be back this week, but
Mhm.
they played a decent amount with 3 linebackers on the field last week against Illinois.
Yes. Oh,
They did not really go to dime.
you think
Um,
you think 3 linebackers 2/3 of the game for
I
Ohio
could
State in
see
this
it.
one?
Yeah, I could see it. Because also when they do that, like they don't when they put 3 linebackers on the field, I don't know that they've ever actually played like a 4-3. They just put Arvel Reese on the line and have Sonny Styles and Peyton Pierce behind them. So I think this is probably another one of those games where you see a decent amount of Peyton Pierce, and
Yeah.
depending on where the game goes, maybe you see some like Riley Pettijohn or something like that. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'll be a different kind of game, I think, which is not a bad thing for Ohio State's defense. You want to experience different styles along the way, and I think this will be that.
What do you think about Ohio State's run defense? What do you think about like Cade McDonald and Tywan Malone that people
Yeah,
continue to say good things about, and just like these linebackers, Sonny Styles filling gaps and that kind of thing?
yeah, I think it's been good. It's not the best run defense in the country, I don't think. Texas found some success in that first game. That's really it, though. To be honest, like no one else
Yeah.
has, and like they had a good test when they played Washington with Jonah Coleman. They tackle
Hmm.
well for the most part at the linebacker and defensive line position. So, um, and I'm hoping that like Edric Houston does get back in the mix this week because I thought that the way he
Hmm.
played against Minnesota 2 weeks ago was the best game he played, especially against the run. So I would like to see him continue to kind of build up that skill set as well. But yeah, so far I think the front seven against the run's been pretty good. I actually think like the thing that has popped up a time or two with run defense has been like when a run has gotten out, you've seen like Jalen McLean take like a banana angle or two.
Mm.
Um, but it's like that's like I think it actually maybe has been twice over the course of the entire seasons, and like neither one of them were touchdowns. But so
Okay.
it's not a glaring issue, but yeah, like line of scrimmage game, run the ball. Ohio State's a good tackling team. Like I think they'll handle it fine, but it's interesting to see them get in a different kind of a game.
The raw numbers don't tell you the whole story, but Ohio State is 9th in the country against the run. They're averaging only 84 yards per game allowed on the ground, which again is 9th in the country. So
Wisconsin, by the way, just for having this conversation, 128th in the country in yards per carry. They ran it for 3.5 against Iowa, 2.6 against Michigan, 1.4 against Maryland, 2.7 against Alabama. They were good against Middle Tennessee State, kind of, and then not so good against Miami, Ohio. So, like, they want to run the ball, they're just not good at it.
dork around factor may not apply here. They just might be in flames. There is no, I'm not sure there's any amount that Ohio State could.
47-minute mark of the podcast. Actually, everything we said to this point doesn't matter.
This has been a really bad spot. Also, Ohio State raw punting numbers 41.22 yards per punt for Ohio State, 101st in the nation. Wisconsin 40.88, 106th in the nation. So no punting edge by the raw numbers for the Badgers. Okay. So this is
Atticus
Joey
Bertrams is the punter for Wisconsin.
Why do you know that?
Because there's 2 Attici in college football: Atticus Bertrams and Atticus Sappington.
Yeah, and was it an Atticus showdown last year at the Oregon Kickers? The other Attic. Yeah. Wow, you would have written that because you just would have used Attici in a headline. Yes. Check out all the Attici on the field in Oregon, Wisconsin. All right, let's go to our picks. 25.5 point favorite edge for Ohio State. 41.5 on the over-under, but also, it's the best bet that you could make this week. Go to roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Check out their game day collection. like I like it when you click on it. They have like the different angles of all the shirts, you know. So it's like you can see the front, you can see the back, you can see like if the person's like has a serious look. Sometimes they have like a smug look on their face. It gives you like a sense of like just like, okay, man, I think I'm gonna feel pretty good. So it's like good quality, like just like classy rooting for your team kind of attire. And just like the thing I always say is like it's just a little different than a lot of the stuff you come across. So I just like check it out. RHOBACK.com, the game day collection. You'll get 20% off your first order. BAD20. That's the code to put in. BAD20. Bill and Doug 20. That's why it's that code. BAD20 gets you 20% off the first order. All right. Bill Landis, what are you picking? Ohio State 25.5 over under 41.5. What do you got?
35-0.
Stop.
Buckeyes.
So you think a shutout? Do you know when they did shut out Grambling, right? Because Grambling missed a field goal.
I don't know. Actually, their last shutout against the Power 4 team.
Yeah,
Rutgers.
So that really is that's like no little deep shot that drops in, no run that pops, no goofy turnover that sets up a short field. There's no popping here.
There's no popping. Yeah.
Do you think there's if this 35-0? Do you like you?
Oh, they shut out Purdue last year, 45-0.
Okay, you said you were surprised. You thought Luke Fickle might be gone this past weekend after getting shut out at home by Iowa. Mm. Do you think anything could, if he gets shut out, if they get shut out at home back-to-back weeks, is he done?
Let me fire up Wisconsin's schedule real quick. This is the basketball
It's insane. Schedule. This is the insane Wisconsin. All Wisconsin does is play a ranked team every week.
I was looking to see if they were off after they play Ohio State. Guess what? They're not. They play at Oregon.
And then they're off.
Their next 3 games are Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana. Actually, they finished their schedule: Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, and then at Minnesota. I think maybe they'll let Luke wear these next 2 losses, and then I don't think he's coaching on the other side of the bye week at home against Washington.
Okay, because that would be, it's like, okay, you lose at home to Ohio State. It's miserable. The fans are super mad, but now you're gone. You're away. But then it's like the next time, if you get, especially if it's your pick, if they get shut out back-to-back weeks at home, can you bring him back in that stadium? So if you're going to Oregon, that's not the question. And then it's the bye week, and then we have somebody else in charge for the next game, because otherwise the fans are going to not be there, you know?
Right.
So
I don't even know if I'll be there for this game. I'm very interested. There are enough Chicagoland, Ohio State alum, and Madison's not that far, that it could be a nice Ohio State crowd there, actually.
That's a lovely trip. I mean, and the thing to watch for the Ohio State fans, if you're watching home on TV, this happens all the time now, is that the student section stays for jump around at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and then every single one leaves. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it is that jump around things keeps people in the stadium. And then if Wisconsin's way down, there is 8% of the crowd left for the fourth quarter.
You can get in the building for $22.
I mean, so if you're an Ohio State fan that's in driving distance of Camp Randall and you've never been there, get in your car and go. It's a cool place to see a college football game. Madison is a cool college town that's right on the lake. Like, there's good places to eat. It's nice vibes walking around. You know, it's not a noon game, so you have a little time to get there. This is one of those, like, just turn to your friends, turn to your family, and be like, oh man, we've always talked about this. It's like, what do you think? Just go. Just get in the car and go. Go watch your team win in a cool stadium that you've always wanted to go to. That's what these weekends, this is the upside of like terrible games. They're cheap.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh man, wouldn't it be fun if this was an Ohio State, Wisconsin, like top 10 matchup? It's like, yeah, it costs $4,000 to get in though. You can get in for the change in your couch. So go. And last week, I think you and I both picked Ohio State to score 35, right? Didn't we? I think we did.
Yes. Yeah.
And they scored 34. Mm-hmm. And this week we're both picking Ohio State to score 35 because I have 35-3. So I'm giving.
You're asking me, you don't have a fluke touchdown in there. You're just giving them a field goal. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm giving them like a punt exchange that gives them decent field position at the 40, and they complete like one pass that matters. Like a 28-yard throw that everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And then they kick like a 49-yard field goal. So, but this is both unders for us. It's not a gambling show, but the over under last week was like 50.5. And I actually think it moved more towards like 52.5. But when we did our show, it was 50.5. And then Wisconsin scored to make it 34-16. And if they would have kicked the extra point, it would have been the over. They went for 2 and didn't get it. And it was a miracle under. And we'll take it. And so we are both taking the under here again. It's really like we're in kind of a similar game script, because I think last week we had 35-10 and 35-9, and it wound up 34-16. This week we're at 35-0 and 35-3. So we're expecting the same thing from the Ohio State offense, less from the opposing offense, but just sort of that like complete control from Ohio State, but not one of those 56-0 bombs away, balls chucking all over the place kind of wins.
Yeah. Ohio State games this year, by the way, are 4 of the 6 have gone under.
Okay.
The 2 that went over were Grambling, which is Ohio State by itself, scoring 70. The over-under was 62.5. And Minnesota, the over-under was 42.5, and Ohio State scored 42. So they basically, like, if it goes over, it's because Ohio State's doing all the heavy lifting. And Ohio State is also 5-0-1 against the spread this year.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right, so those are our picks. We appreciate you guys being here. We'll have a post-game show right after the game on Saturday. We'll have our national picks here on Friday. We have our Substack coverage, Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. And again, if you want to check out roback.com, put in the code BAD20. For now, looking forward to seeing you guys after the game. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.